Tonight on NAIT NewsWatch.
Powerful celebration in Edmonton for International Women's Day.
Although we've made a lot of progress in the last while, there's still a lot of issues that women are still fighting for.
And Mayor Dawn Iveson tackles the conversation of climate change to better Edmonton's future.
70% of the world's emissions originate from our cities.
And coming up, the year's best restaurants in Edmonton are announced.
Humbled that we got that, and we're really proud of what we've made out here.
NewsWatch starts now.
Good evening. A climate change conference held in Edmonton this week helped to start a conversation about the consequences of the changing weather.
The three-day event had a variety of panelists speaking about climate change and what to prepare for in the near future. Our Evan Hugowaning joins us live from the South Lobby with more on that story.
Thanks, guys. Climate change affects us more than we think. It affects our agriculture, our water, and our health, and most of all, our future. This week, Edmonton hosted a climate change conference here in the city.
These targets are not easy, but they are achievable.
A variety of speakers came from all around the world to speak on the panel about the numerous ways climate change is affecting the Earth today and what precautions to take in the future. The event also consisted of showcasing innovative climate-related technology and how it will better in the future. As cities grow, officials here feel the need to cope with the uprising of pollution.
Today is an opportunity to share some of these experiences, and as we know, as cities move from a population concentration in urban centers of around 50% today to 70% in 2050, it's going to be quite a job.
Not only do scientists and politicians talk about climate change here at the Shaw Conference Center, students from around the world came to Queen Elizabeth High School to talk about it. These kids were tasked with 3 questions about global warming. The Edmonton mayor sat down with them and listened in. Later on, he gave the students a little history lesson on climate change.
The very first major scientific report that went to Congress went there in 1979, the year I was born. And it said there is a clear consensus in the science that humans are causing climate change. I am 38 years old, and we are still debating what we need to do.
The conference wrapped up on Wednesday with a call to other cities to step up against climate change. Even though climate change is a global problem, speakers at the conference believe that change can happen in cities such as Edmonton. One example is extending the LRT line in the city so less people have to drive to work. This will reduce carbon emissions.
Evan, since Edmonton is a growing population, what will city councillors be planning for in future communities?
Well, the neighborhoods in Edmonton are being planned so that malls, schools, and activity centers are within walking distance. So again, less people have to drive.
Evan, what is Edmonton doing to reduce emissions from the ETS buses?
They actually announced that with the new ETS buses that are making their way into the city, they will reduce emissions by 33 to 38%.
Thanks, Evan. That's our Evan Hugowaning reporting live from the South Lobby.
You're watching NAIT NewsWatch, the next generation of news.
How will you press for progress? That's the question being posed by women's activist groups around the world in the wake of International Women's Day.
Many events took place around the city yesterday in celebration and support of women across the world. Our Brendan Escott has more on that story.
Thanks, guys. The first International Women's Day took place in 1911, and after more than a century of work, the movement is still ongoing. Celebrations like the one held here at City Hall yesterday have gone on all week long, encouraging positive change for women across our city.
The women of this time in this room are in the middle of a revolution.
Kicking off yesterday, the theme of International Women's Day this year is Press for Progress. The goal is to encourage more than just a conversation about women's issues, as organizers say it's time for people to take a pledge for change.
It's a day to remember our progress and how far we've come, to recognize everything that women do every day. And for me, it's also a call to action that we're not done yet, that we have so much more that we need to do to support women and gender minorities.
What about the other 364 days every year?
For us to have a day that has the conversation, it is just a day. And so that's what I think people need to be cognizant of. So if you are putting that pledge down, how are you living that pledge the whole year? Because change isn't going to just happen on a day, but at least it's a day that...
Works of women painted the city purple last night to celebrate, getting downtown businesses, the Muttart Conservatory, and the Alberta Legislative Building all lit up with purple lights. Their hope is to spread the message to everyone in the city. Back at the City Hall event, women shared their own stories of the barriers they've had to overcome.
I'll go out for a run and I can expect to experience some sort of violence where people call after me. You know, I have a male partner and that's just not something that he ever has to think about or has ever experienced.
You can take your pledge by using the hashtag #PressForProgress on social media or by logging on to www.internationalwomen'sday.com for more information. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Brendan.
That's our Brendan Escott reporting from City Hall.
On the eve of International Women's Day, the government of Alberta announced more support for survivors of sexual violence. The province is investing an additional $8.1 million into the Association of Alberta Sexual Assault Services to expand frontline services like counseling and court support for victims. With movements such as Alberta's I Believe You campaign and the Me Too movement, sexual assault centers in Alberta have seen a 53% increase in new clients needing services.
So that survivors who take the brave step to come forward have the vital help that they need when they need it close to home.
And our goal would be to actually have people wait about 2 weeks before they can get in for counseling.
The Sexual Assault Center in Edmonton says currently victims are having to wait up to 8 months to see a counselor.
Post-secondary institutions like NAIT are beginning to face financial troubles. NAIT experienced a $6.1 million deficit in 2017 and is looking at ways to adjust to the situation. On March 1st, NAIT put a hiring chill in place, which means there will be no new hires unless it is essential to the success of NAIT. Marta Gold, NAIT's media relations specialist, says there are many factors involved in the deficit.
The tuition freeze is one of the contributing factors, I would say. The others would be things like a decline in our investment revenues, a number of apprenticeship seats that have declined, as well as an increase in staffing salaries and benefits.
NAIT is also looking at its budget to find ways to limit spending and increase revenue.
With Edmonton's recent cold spell, the funiculars had some issues trying to keep up with the weather. The funicular opened in December of 2017. Since then, it has been closed a few times due to the cold weather. The city says that around -25 degrees, the platform doors can be slow to open and close, triggering an alarm that needs resetting.
Lessons learned always are used from any of our infrastructures that we deliver, whether it be a funicular, rec center, wherever. We take those lessons learned and apply it to it, and if there's an opportunity to rise and say that this is what we're wanting to do, definitely.
The city says snow and ice in the door's pathway can also lead to the doors not being able to open or close, which also triggers the alarm. The funicular is closed 1 day a month for regular maintenance.
Edmonton Public Schools' newest pilot project is reaching new heights with an aviation class for students. J. Percy Page High School is the first school in Edmonton to offer the aviation class. Students have the opportunity to learn air traffic control laws, meteorology, and the functions of an airplane. Teacher and veteran Air Force pilot David Williams sees more benefits to this course than just a new learning opportunity.
Here they get that opportunity with $0 laid out, and they can actually see, hey, is this something that I really want to do? And if
Williams says that the class has generated a lot of interest and looks forward to teaching it next year.
The Bonnie Doon Community League hosted the Marvelous Magic Carnival, hosted by I Care for Kids, to support families of seriously ill children. Paired with the Ronald McDonald House, I Care for Kids raises money to buy families tablets and iPads who may not be able to afford them. The event saw games, face painting, and a magic show put on by the Joe Show to help raise money and awareness for the I Care for Kids Foundation.
Oh, seeing all the kids and having fun and eating their snow cones and really just the games, and it's really a lot of fun. It's so such a great cause, and being able to just add a little joy in people's lives for an afternoon is great.
Eye Care for Kids focuses on Northern Alberta and the Edmonton area. To donate, you can visit www.eyecareforkids.com.
The life of legendary Canadian Terry Fox is being celebrated at the TELUS World of Science.
And then he decided to go on his marathon across Canada.
Terry Fox was diagnosed with osteosarcoma in 1977, which resulted in the amputation of his right leg. Now, 37 years after his passing, the TELUS World of Science's newest exhibit is celebrating his life. The exhibit includes the van that traveled with him, his prosthetic legs, and even the socks that he wore on the Marathon of Hope.
He means courage, he means inspiration. He's hope for all the kids out there who might have cancer and be trying to push through. So it's really important and great for Edmontonians to come in here and see what kind of an impact Terry made.
The exhibit runs until September 16th. Coming up after the break, procrastination is on the rise as the end of the school year approaches.
We take a look at some of the distractions post-secondary students are facing.
What are the tips for procrastination, or how do I start on an assignment? How do I get going?
Up after the break, in sports, I'll try my hand at sledge hockey.
Even though it's been a little chilly this week, things are definitely warming up this weekend. Spring is only 11 days away, so stay tuned. I've got your weather forecast coming up after the break.
Ugh, I'm late for the game. Can't go to a NAIT Nukes hockey game? Don't worry. NR92 does a live play-by-play of every home game for men's and women's hockey. Check out nr92.com for more.
Melissa, I value my sleep, and losing this hour this Sunday, I am going to miss it.
I know, I'm not excited about it, but maybe the weather will make up for it. For Joyce, what do you have?
It's looking like a pretty good weekend, guys. You can put your heavy winter jacket away and pull out something a little lighter. Let's get right into it. Starting with Calgary, we have a high of 8 and a low of -4. It's going to be a pretty nice weekend for them. And moving on to Jasper, we have a high of 7 and a low of -10. There is a chance that it might rain, but you know what? They're still pretty lucky with that high of 7. And on to Fort McMurray, we have a high of 4 and a low of -10. Not as warm as the other cities, but Fort McMurray had a lot of snow last week, so this is definitely a look up. And on to Edmonton, we have a high of 5 and a low of -8. There is a chance that we might get some rain, but I hope that we don't, because even though it's still cold, it's definitely starting to warm up. And our average high and lows, 0 as our high and -9 is our low. And in 1934, 17 was our high and -33 in 1951 was our low. And it's that time to spring forward as we start daylight saving time, so 2 a.m. Sunday will actually turn into 3 a.m. even though we're losing that hour of sleep. Take advantage to get out there and enjoy your weekend. That's all I have for weather, guys. Back to you.
NewsWatch Weather is brought to you by NR92, the station for the students.
Procrastination is a big issue that all students face.
However, researchers are now studying the link between procrastinating and mental health. Nikita Ganavachev has more on that story.
With little time left and the end of the school year fast approaching, students are in a rush to finish their assignments. According to a survey done by Piers Steele of the University of Calgary, 80 to 95% of college students procrastinate regularly. Engineering student Ryan Marsden knows what it's like to deal with procrastination.
I'm in my 4th semester now, so I've had issues with procrastination in the past, so essentially over the time I've learned to kind of like schedule stuff out and plan beforehand, so that way I'm not falling behind.
Researchers have found that there is a link between procrastination and mental health, and it could be a risk factor for poor mental health and well-being.
If you have this crippling fear of failing, then you might never start, and that's what we see often. If it's a student where procrastination is the issue, but it's because they feel a lot of anxiety or stress about a project that's coming up, then that might actually be a deeper issue or something that hasn't been uncovered, and then we might actually refer them to a learning advisor.
Ma estimates that they see hundreds of students per semester, and she guides them to the right resources to help students with their problems.
On April 6th, the library services will be holding the Long Night Against Procrastination event, where the library staff will be here until midnight to help students working on their projects and papers. For NAIT NewsWatch, I'm Nikita Ganavachev.
The NFL Combine just wrapped up, and it sounds like a University of Alberta Golden Bear might have some interest south of the border.
I did hear about that, and I heard also that the Oilers have some interesting things going on involving dogs. I don't know. Dave, what's that all about?
Yeah, that's right, guys. We'll get into all that after we detail the NAIT men's hockey coming up. The NAIT men's hockey team was back on the ice preparing for their upcoming ACAC semifinal playoff series, in which they'll be taking on the University of Alberta Augustana in a best-of-3. The Ukes were given a first-round bye for the playoffs as they finished first in the standings with a record of 21-6-1. Ukes head coach Tim Fraggle had this to say regarding his team's mindset entering their first round of the playoffs.
And being off that long against a team who's playoff tested, they played SAIT last weekend. That's our concern. We also have a few guys that were injured in the last weekend, so getting them back up to game speed and practice, you try to by simulating as many drills as you can, but there's nothing really that can prepare you for playoff hockey but getting in the battles.
The Ukes wrap up their last practice as they prepare to kick off their series at 6 o'clock p.m. Tonight. Sticking with Alberta Collegiate and University hockey, the University of Alberta Golden Bears finished up their last practices as they head into the Youth Sports Nationals beginning this weekend in Fredericton, New Brunswick. The Golden Bears recently defeated the University of Saskatchewan Huskies over the weekend for their second consecutive Can West title. However, the Bears know that they'll have to do a lot more to get the highly coveted Youth Sport National title, which they haven't won since back in 2015.
That we're dialed in every single practice, and whatever we put in practice is what we're going to get out in the games in the weekend. So we got to make sure that we're focused on working hard on Monday to Thursday, and then being able to bring it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
With the long week ahead of practice, McGee is hopeful they can put it all together at Nationals. For collegiate and university athletes, the CFL draft is coming up in the next few weeks. But for one potential top 10 draft pick, the surprise is how much buzz he's creating south of the border. Wearing number 65 and starting at left tackle for the University of Alberta is Mark Cordy. The 6'4", 285-pound product of Spruce Grove, Alberta, is turning heads left and right and has several NFL scouts attending his own pro day.
So we'll be hosting a pro day here on March 27th, and that'll be for hosting NFL teams. We'll have some scouts come up, and we'll be in the dome here at Footfield. So that'll be kind of the NFL shot, and then CFL Combine will be just a few days before that. Either way, things work out. Professional football is professional football, and I'm really looking forward to taking the next step.
For Mark, his next few weeks are extremely busy as he continues to train with the U of A conditioning coach in hopes of putting his best foot forward for both NFL and CFL scouts. Hockey Helps Kids is back in full swing as Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' team has emerged as first-time ever back-to-back champions in the third annual Charity Cup Challenge. Mary Butterworth students partnered with RNH have managed to win $25,000 for the charity of their choice. Their choice is Dogs with Wings, which is a charity that looks to change lives for the better through integration for Albertans with disabilities by providing them with highly trained assistance dogs.
It's great. It's 3 years now, and I've been involved all 3 years. And every year, the kids have done such a good job. They really get into it. They pick great charities, great causes. And like I said, they put a lot of passion into it, and they make a big difference. So it's awesome for the kids to get involved at such a young age. And for us, it's just nice to be a little part of it and just kind of put our name and face behind it. And
Nugent-Hopkins and Mary Butterworth look forward to next year when they plan on three-peating. For this week's End Zone Challenge, I had the wonderful opportunity of trying to play the Paralympic sport of sledge hockey. When I started out at sledge hockey, I wanted to be a pro. I quickly realized that probably wasn't going to happen after it took me 9 minutes to get in my sled. Next up was putting the sticks to use. As I was getting used to pushing off with the sticks, I forgot about another element of the game, turning. After several minutes and a few pointers from my friend John, I was finally able to figure out the whole turning thing. You coming with me or what? You coming with me? Okay, let's go. Oh, yeah, I kept working on it, and once I mastered that, we moved on to the whole passing aspect. And just when I thought it was getting easy and a little bit, hey, I can do this, John decided to call a meeting. Because it was my first day and it's kind of initiation, he threw me an absolute curveball and decided to organize a scrimmage. We began splitting into teams of 6, and off we went. After my teammate missed a glorious chance to find me wide open in the slot for my first career sledge hockey goal, I thought it was time to show my worth on the defensive end with a Ryan Kessler-type back check for my final play of the night. At the end of the day, I ended up improving, and that's all that matters. Sledge hockey was an absolute blast.
Man, Dave, I really wanted to try sledge hockey, but I bet my arms would just be killing me.
Yeah, how are yours doing?
Not too good today. I can barely lift this piece of paper. My confidence is a little shot, too.
Well, there's a lot going on in Edmonton this weekend.
After the break, we'll take you to Skirts of Fire, a local festival showcasing women in the arts.
Coming up in entertainment, I learn what it takes to become a Foley artist, and I get a taste of what's to come this weekend in downtown Edmonton.
NR92 Pod Picks Casting Call.
The Adventure Zone!
Next.
Hi, I'm Ira Glass.
Next.
Listen to Podpicks on NR92 weekdays at 11:05 for a podcast recommendation.
NewsWatch clothing provided by Action Air Mold and Asbestos.
NewsWatch music provided by Martin Mayer Productions.
Well, the heap of snow last weekend really slowed me down. I really hope that this weekend I can go check out some art. I mean, I'm a real sucker for it.
I'm a real sucker for that Foley artist stuff.
Yeah.
I really think that's really interesting.
Yeah, that is.
Mackenzie, what else do you have for us?
Thanks, guys. Well, we got an action-packed weekend coming up to go with that warm weather that we're going to see. But first, we'll take a stop by the Skirts of Fire Festival, and our Zachary McLean has the details.
This Thursday saw the opening ceremonies for Skirts of Fire take place, an arts festival meant to showcase the talents of many female Canadian artists, musicians, and filmmakers. Many gathered at the Nina Haggerty Center for free food and inspiring speeches before the regular events would start to take place over the weekend.
But festivals like the Skirts of Fire Festival are great celebrations too. Celebrations that are needed. We need to focus on our accomplishments of the resilient and creative women that we have in this province.
These speeches were given by various important sponsors to the event, including Edmonton Centre MLA David Shepherd, who made a big impact with a very large check. Look at that thing. He also delivered a strong point about the difficulties that women experience in gaining exposure.
Is that women's accomplishments are often not given the same opportunity to be seen, to be heard, to be celebrated as the accomplishments of men. And whether that's in science, whether that's in art, whether that's in many other fields, that's something that we have to work to provide more opportunities to elevate the amazing work that is done by women.
So if you're looking for ways to spend your warm weekend, be sure to stop by Skirts of Fire along 118th. They'll be having events all weekend long, ending this Sunday. So be sure to stop by. For NAIT NewsWatch, I'm Zachary McLean.
Well, if you're watching a film and a car door is slammed, that sound is made by someone known as a Foley artist. And one man from Sherwood Park was given the opportunity to work on one of last year's biggest films. Chris Zott is a Foley artist who recently worked on the Oscar-winning film Blade Runner 2049. After learning about Foley and all the possibilities that come with it, while on an internship in Belgium, he became absolutely obsessed. He tells us what it was like working on the film.
One day we spent at a junkyard smashing up cars and recording that, and then again taking it back, editing it up, and then we layered that into the big crash scene, case spinner crashing into San Diego.
You can also hear his work in the television series Vikings and The Handmaid's Tale. Well, art can take many forms and be used in so many different ways, linear or otherwise, and a local art gallery is putting on an exhibit showcasing 4 artists who paint with an abstract mind. Abstract for Ways is an exhibit put on by the Peter Robertson Gallery. The exhibit features work from 4 abstract artists, including Giuseppe Albi and Scott Cumberland, who currently teaches at the University of Alberta. Peter Robertson says the exhibit is to provide variety as well as to get people thinking.
Some variety, some different things that are happening, and just something to kind of tickle the eye. It's interesting in that it's abstraction, it's interesting in that it's a little bit different vein, and it does challenge people to a certain degree.
The exhibit runs until March 10th. And to be the very best takes passion, commitment, and a lot of practice. Avenue Magazine just released its picks for the best restaurants in Edmonton. The magazine releases its annual Best Restaurants issue for the city to find out who really has the best restaurant in Edmonton. This year, that honor went to Range Road. Co-owner Blair Lebsack says he couldn't do it alone and that this will push him to greater lengths.
So proud of the team. The team has done an absolutely fantastic job, and what it allows us to do now is, take those risks of, pushing the limits of our food, and that's what we do.
The magazine also has categories for Best Brunch, Best Cafe, and Best New Restaurant. And if those don't tickle your fancy, why don't you hop on over to downtown and check out their 10-day event all about food, food, and even more food. Downtown Dining Week commences with food samples, wine tasting, and all accompanied with a little music. The event is to show off the downtown core's restaurant culture and to bring more people downtown.
And it's great for all of downtown because it creates vibrancy, it creates more people coming downtown. And the other thing that's really interesting about this event is that they don't just come to dine. Sometimes they'll come and they'll go to a show later, or maybe they'll do a little shopping before.
This year is a record year with 37 restaurants a part of the event, including Norman's Bistro and Madison's Grill. Prices begin at $18 and the event goes until March 18th. And that's all I have for you this weekend in the exciting and enthralling world of entertainment. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Mackenzie, for that exciting look ahead to the weekend. NAIT culinary students are back from Dubai with some gold medals.
The culinary team here at NAIT returned home with 8 gold medals from Dubai's Emirates Salon Culinaire. They were the only Canadian team participating in the event while competing against some of the world's top chefs. However, their impressive wins are a result of hard work.
Me and Chef Ganesh, who's the other instructor, we've been with them since August practicing. We've put in so much time. These kids have put in so much time. I mean, some of them, they work as well. They have school, then they do the practice, they have to work. They were here on Saturdays, so we were practicing Monday to Saturday. But in the end, it's all worth it. When you have double golds hanging, that's good.
The team consisted of 9 second-year students. A big congratulations goes out to the team for making NAIT proud. I don't know about you, but all this talk about food has made me really hungry. I can't wait to try out the Downtown Dining Week.
I am so hungry right now.
I know. That's been your look at news for this week.
Thank you for joining us.